Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Movie Magic Show for Wednesday, the 24th of November, 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Shane Bailey, joined by my wickedly talented cast. To my right, he loves his VR and shaking his hips like Shakira. Please welcome the era of Jason Mira. And to his right, it's the film filleting, TV show hating, thought elaborating Mr. Movies, Ben Stapleton.
Good evening, friends. How are we?
I'm fantastic, Ben.
Living the dream.
You just heard you heard my day, but how was yours?
Well, I didn't lose my wallet, so that's got a good start on you.
That's it.
But,
that's it.
Yeah, I had to wake up extra early at 7:30 today and didn't like it. But otherwise, doing well.
Good. How about you, Jace?
Oh man, the C word is just around the corner, and Black Friday sales are ramping up. This is what happens when you work in retail. It's just insane. But I will die later tonight and then resurrect myself in the morning and do it all again. But I'm happy that I'm here with you guys.
The wrong holiday, Jace. That's the Easter holiday.
You not did
that.
Yes, I do not miss retail, but I have missed you, dear viewers. It's been a whole week since our last episode of the Movie Magic Show. If you're tuning in for the first time, hello to Jet Shepherd, who's a first timer in the chat. Nice of you to join us. This is the Movie Magic Show every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. We chuckleheads get together to love, like, bash, and trash the latest the entertainment world has to offer. If you like that, follow us here on Twitch. Also, catch all our past episodes and reviews on my YouTube channel. Just search Magic Casts, all one word, on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter as well, at Movie Magic Show. We'll notify you when we're going live and which films we'll be reviewing this week. We will be diving into our backlog. I have finally watched the sci-fi classic that is Aliens from 1986.
Finally.
And I caught up on The Black Swan, Best Picture nominee from 2010, starring the magnificent, the glorious, the beautiful Natalie Portman. I should have said Sebastian Stan or something.
Vincent Castle.
Vincent Castle. We'll also play a little movie actor go, which we always love to do. Before we dive into our first topic, though, we need to set up our end games. These are games we like to play at the end of the show. First among them are our movie quotes. We're going to give you 2 film quotes. You need to guess which films they're from. I'm going to the era of Jason Mira for movie quote number 1.
Movie quote number 1 is... Is he allowed to say that legally?
I know this, Ben, and it's killing me that I can't pick it.
Oh man, it's good. That's so good.
I'm gonna kick myself when you tell me.
You are going to kick yourself. You're going to...
I'm gonna think about it furiously. I'm not even gonna be listening to you guys elaborate on your thoughts. I'm just gonna be in my head thinking about this quote. And film quote number 2, Mr. Movies.
My one's a hard one, so apologies. Thank you, Jace. Okay, I have to read it. He was their sweet little dream. He had little hands, little legs, little feet, little lungs. That's it.
I feel like I might know it. I feel like you're going to say it and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's right. But no, I'm only like 15% of the way there, I think, with this one. Anyway, the other endgame we like to play is 6 Degrees. We're going to give you 2 actors. You need to try and link them via other actors they've starred alongside. This week, because of Aliens, I have chosen to link Sigourney Weaver to Antonio Banderas. See how we go.
Oh, okay.
Sigourney Weaver to Antonio Banderas. We will come up with a solution together at the very end of the show. But before we get to the end of the show, let's get to the start of the show with our first review. It is of Black Swan. And Black Swan is a 2010 American psychological horror film directed by Darren Aronofsky, the American producer, writer, director, best known for his work on Requiem for a Dream in 2000, The Wrestler in 2008, and this film. The screenplay was written by Mark Heyman, John McLaughlin, and Andreas Hines, based on the original story by Hines. The film stars Natalie Portman, Vincent Castle, Mila Kunis, Barbara Hershey, and Winona Ryder. The plot revolves around a production of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake Ballet by the New York City Ballet Company. The production requires a ballerina to play the innocent and fragile white swan, for which the committed dancer Nina Sayers, played by Portman, is a perfect fit, as well as the dark and sensual black swan, which are qualities better embodied by the new rival Lily, played by Mila Kunis. Nina is overwhelmed by a feeling of immense pressure when she finds herself competing for the role, causing her to lose her tenuous grip on reality and descend into madness. Upon its release, the film received critical acclaim with particular praise toward Aronofsky's direction and the performances of Portman and Kunis. It was a commercial success, grossing $330 million worldwide against a $13 million budget. The film received 5 nominations at the 83rd Academy Awards, including Best Picture, with Portman winning Best Actress. In 2021, notably, Portman's performance was included in the New Yorker's list of best film performances of the 21st century. On IMDb, audiences have rated the film an 8 out of 10, while the Metascore fares similarly at 79. The Rotten Tomatoes, gentlemen, take your guess. Jason.
Rotten Tomatoes. I'm gonna go 80. I feel like it's high, but like art housey enough that people are gonna be like, huh? Well, I didn't get it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Ben?
I think that's quite a gamble from Jace. I would say 98.
85%. Jason, leaning in the right direction there. A couple of
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
3 out of 20. 15%. Not their cup of tea.
Mm.
Not their bird of choice. I don't know. Anyway, hands up. Who hadn't seen this until tonight? Just me. There you go.
Oh, I got one for you, Shane. It's not so black and white, is it?
Hey!
Oh.
See, Ben, this is why we have you. Anyway, I might kick off with my thoughts. I will say, I think my first Aronofsky film. I have not seen The Wrestler, and I have not seen Requiem for a Dream.
You haven't seen The Wrestler?
I haven't. No, that is also on the list, and I will correct that
Shame.
soon.
Yes,
that's right. Thoroughly enjoyed this film. Totally understand the hype. Totally understand why Natalie Portman won for Best Actress that year. Though I'd be interested to see who she went up against. Mr. Mira,
I'm on it.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
On it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. I remember seeing imagery like the trailers and whatnot, and understanding that it wasn't just a drama, but more of a creepy ass thriller vibes going on. I remember like one particular image from the trailer where Portman's character Nina is back up against a mirror, and her reflection turns to face her in a very eerie and creepy way, and thinking to myself, this one's not for me, I don't think. But understanding it's not pure horror, I thought, come on, Natalie Portman, one of my favorite actresses of all time. This is her Academy Award-winning performance. I need to correct it. And it sat on the list of films I needed to watch for the longest time. Many times traveling overseas, it would be there on the plane. I'd flick through when I sit down in my chair, and I flick through all the films. I'm like, okay, start hitting star on all the films I'm going to consider watching for this flight. And Black Swan was always there. I'm like, star that Black Swan. Okay, this is the time I'm watching the Black Swan. Lo and behold, I watched Thor Ragnarok for like the 7th time. So
not on an airplane. You can't watch that kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. I watched Room with Brie Larson. Who is it? I watched
Alison
Room.
Larson.
Yeah.
Larson.
That's a very intense movie to watch on the film. Don't watch that on a flight. Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, hadn't watched it until now. 11 years past its release.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to say I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, it kind of is exactly what I expected. Just a very intense, creepy dive into the psyche of a ballerina who is just hard strung to pursue perfection, and it reminded me in that sense a lot of Whiplash. From 4 years later after this film, Miles Teller playing Andrew Neiman in that film, on this constant pursuit to be the best, and he's not going to stop at anything. Nina's character in this much more fragile in comparison to someone like Neiman, but yeah, I found their journey following similar ebbs and flows, so I really sunk into that, and I will say I loved the techniques he used to depict her entangled mind and her dissension into madness, let's say, as she's trying to wrestle with again chasing that perfection, but also embody these two roles that she needs to play to successfully execute the performance of the Swan Queen, as it's known in the ballet. Pardon me. Yeah, so thoroughly enjoyed that. I think, and bear with me here, I think that I would have been way more impressed with this film before my viewing of The Father, just because I think The Father does a masterful job of putting you in the shoes of someone who is not understanding their reality. And I feel as though it's a similar journey here for Nina as it was for Hopkins' character in The Father, that for quite a few moments through the film I was comparing them. And yeah, I think it came off less favorably, let's say. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I was like, oh, okay, I feel as though The Father did a much more polished job, let's say, of kind of like portraying that in the mind of the main protagonist. So look, I'm keen to pass the ball over to let's lob it over to Mr. Movies there, and get your thoughts, sir, and maybe I can expand upon mine as we go.
Oh wait, it's the other way around.
Yeah, it's mirrored.
Yeah.
I nailed it that time. I went the correct.
You went the correct way, Shane. I caught it how I see it, but it's got to go the other way. Interesting that you brought up The Father. I didn't think of The Father once, but I did think of Whiplash a lot. And otherwise, I was just like in agony watching this again. Like, I don't hate it, and I love Portman's performance to the degree that I wrote a note, like you can really see how she embodies exactly what the ballet director's comments are all about. How she's the perfect white swan, the goody two shoes kind of person. Just her in her posture and in the way that she her innocent mannerisms and the things that she says about, well, she's describing the production to someone who doesn't know what the Swan Lake's all about. And she says, like, it's about this girl who gets turned into a swan, and then only the true love's kiss from the prince can set her free. And she's like smiling when she's talking about it, like she's like, you know how that happens in real life to every girl. And it's like, mate, okay. It's like, it's almost cringe, that part of it, just like how she calls her mother and she's like, Mommy, I got he picked me. Just like so innocent, and to the point where I'm like, but then I'm actually like, when it's like
visceral,
getting into the mini gore. Like, it's not a gory shoot 'em up or anything, but it's got these like
body horror.
Yeah, body horror. Is that the industry term for it?
That's what I would use. There's a lot of like.
It's just very, very, very uncomfortable because it's scaled down. It feels like it looks real and just. Yeah, it's and very it starts personal. You off. Yeah. The baseline, which is like, this is normal for these girls, is like she's like, the first thing that she does in the morning in the first scene when she wakes up is sit up and cracks her neck. She's like that. Then she's like, you see her like flexing her toes, and they're all like just bruised and worn and warped, and because they're ballerina toes, and then they're stretching and cracking things, and the masseuse, when she's like getting an adjustment done, she's like, just one more pull on this leg, and you hear it pull, and the thing just like really makes this, that's the baseline. And then there's like pulling the quick from your fingers, and the toenail being split and bloody, and the back like rash opening up, and I hated it, all of that. That's just half of it. There's like more. It's worse, and it's really bad. Didn't love. Really didn't love. Like, it blocked my mind. Like, I couldn't do things like, I can see how Aronofsky's saying something about the pursuit of perfection in artistry, or the challenge of a fractured mind to grab this concept of. I couldn't sit there in the zone and go like, what's he doing to me now? Which way am I pulling? Instead, I was mostly thinking about how much I hated that mini gore stuff. And again, with The Father, I was like, did that happen?
or is that in her head, or is it like something in between? Is she the bad guy in this situation? Is it all made up? Like, honestly, there's only a couple of things that set straight that we can tell, like, definitely she made them up. Like, there's like a stabbing thing that happens, and you're like, okay, that, like, she realizes for herself that what she just did or what happened to her, or whatever, isn't gelling with reality, because she's like checked the where it happened and like nothing is there anymore, or something like that, you know. And it's like that one, and this whole sexual assault thing, like she's the new primo ballerina of the company. She's spending a lot of close quarters contact with the brilliant ballet director of Vincent Castle, who is like being weird, being gross, being really gross, and then being really weird. Like it's again, it starts off with a baseline, and then it gets like, and then it gets really bad. But then there's this moment where she does something that should play into his fantasies, and he is completely shocked, like that could happen, and or whatever. So which totally backtracks that arc. Like, it says maybe that none of that actually happened. Maybe he's like a decent guy, and she was just doing this to push herself to play the perfect Black Swan, or whatever. That, see, I'm thinking about this stuff now, like well after the fact, after I've recovered, but the wounds are still there, so to speak. Other than that, I loved the score. I especially loved the opening to the score, where you hear like the clarinet playing, and I'm like, where in a score could you have a clarinet soloing other than a ballet movie? Well done. Of course, it's a ballet movie, like the first 5 seconds of the thing. I know another thing I noted. I don't know if you thought about this, Shane, but girls are evil.
Yes.
Like the looks that they would just give each other, the competition is there, right? He's gonna pick me for this role, not you, and I'm gonna be the whatever, and you're not. And so when she's like stepping up to audition or whatever for the role, the other girl that's probably most likely to get it just shoots this look at her that is so, like, it could kill a Russian grandmother. Like, a tough European woman would die from the look that cuts through by this beautiful girl. Like this, like she's playing a swan, a delicate swan or whatever, and she's just like, I'm gonna cut you. Like, that's the look, that the dagger eyes that she's giving.
Daggers for eyes, yep.
The daggers for eyes. Staring daggers. That's what it is. Other than that, it's just like little nitpicks here and there, and funny moments. Like there was this great thing where they're doing a rehearsal. It starts with just a dude at the piano, just playing through the accompanying
Score?
I don't know, what would you call that to a ballet? I guess it's the score to the ballet.
Yeah.
So he's playing the music that they're going to be performing to, but it's just him in the corner. He's just playing the piece or whatever, and then they say, let's do it again, and he goes back and plays again, whatever, and they're dancing along and taking their notes. Then it gets a little bit closer to like a full rehearsal. So you've got him and a violinist there who's adding tone to the music and feeling and all that kind of stuff. And I love that scene because Vincent Castle is like at the end of his rope. He's just tired of telling her to let it go. It's like really jazzy the way that they're talking about it. Like lose yourself in the performance and kind of don't be perfect on each thing, each pose, each step. Kind of just feel it and seduce him and be the Black Swan. And that's her biggest shortcoming by far. So he's at the end of his rope and he's not giving any notes. He's just saying, do it again, like that. And then they do like another the same 10-second piece, and the guy lifts her up, and then they dance around for a bit, and then they stop, and then he's like, do it again, like, and he is just done. But I love the violinist because he just goes straight into like he's just straight back into it, and he's feeling it, and he's like, and he's right into the moment again, like at the drop of a hat, where and Vincent Castle is not helping at all. He's just like, again, like he just got straight back into the thing, and I loved it because it just perfect counterbalance in that scene. I love that performance. That tiny little character didn't even get a line in the film, but I remember writing that one down. And that quote that he gives, Vincent Cassel says, "That was me seducing you when it needs to be the other way around." Like just after this horror, like I'm just like, can't make this today. This movie couldn't come out today. Like it would just be cancelled. And it's like this horror, like it's just like this whole sexual attack is happening, and then he just like breaks it off and walks away. It's just like, that's what you need to do to me with your dancing, and he just like, walks on the stage.
Meanwhile, Portman needs a cold shower.
Yeah. Man, like that goes, that is like some real hot and heavy stuff that is totally like not okay. And then it just like, and then it just made me pivot and go, oh, maybe he had a point there. Like, was he trying to make that's another one of those, was he trying to make a point there and she's leading into it? Did any of that happen at all? Was it a way cut down version of it where they're just dancing, or he's just, leading her through the dance and then says, you see what I did? That's what you need to do. Like, maybe, I have no idea where it lies, where the truth lies. I guess that's my problem with this movie and rewatching it is my fault. Like when it comes to interpreting art, like you go to a gallery and you're like, what is it? It's just, it's like four colors in four corners, whatever. Yeah. But like I can't interpret it into my context. I have to be told what it is. And so I'm reading the plaque. I'm like, oh, I see. The four corners represent this, 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 and this. No, still don't see it. And then I walk on, that kind of thing. But this one is another one of those where I'm just like, oh, but what actually happened? Like if you sat down with an interview, if I sat down with an interview with Aronofsky or the writers or whatever, I'd probably infuriate them because I'd be like, which part was the real bit? Like what actually happened?
And then he'd throw a question back saying, well, what was real to you? And you'd be like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever
if he answers another question, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Whatever touched you, that's what's real. I'm like, oh, damn it. But yeah. I wanted that, like the movie Hero with Jet Li, how
oh yeah, very clearly,
like he's telling the story about how he vanquished these assassins of the would-be assassins of the Emperor, soon to be Emperor, whatever, the conquering warlord guy, and it's all colored in one way, like everything, the set dressing and the costume and everything is colored green because that's how he tells it, and it's very like, got it, I get it. When it's green, it's Jet Li speaking, and then it goes, the Emperor goes, like, what if it was like this? And they go through the scene again, and it's slightly different, and now it's all red and stuff. I'm like, perfect. And then it goes through again, and it's what actually happened, and it's all just white. It's just like, it's just truth. That's what I wanted for this. Just make it a 3-hour movie, go through the whole thing again with the white version. Otherwise, it's so painful for me, this movie, to watch. So, ooh.
Mr. Mira, before we went live, you said you were reminded of how much you loved it after rewatching it, so I'm keen to get your thoughts.
So, I'm going to talk about anime.
Anime?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Aronofsky bought the film rights for a movie made directed by Satoshi Ko called Perfect Blue, and he's been noted to say that Perfect Blue has influenced a lot of his work. It's rumored that he bought the film rights for Perfect Blue to use one of the scenes in Requiem for a Dream, so he can actually use that shot. And watching this film with that in mind, I'm looking at shots. I'm like, that's Perfect Blue. That's Perfect Blue right there, and that's Perfect Blue again. The shots where, like, in the mirror, she looks at herself in the mirror, or she thinks she sees herself in other places and whatever, and even to the point where, like, she's got her hands up and she's falling, straight from Perfect Blue again. So it's really interesting because the storyline of Perfect Blue and Black Swan are kind of intertwined. Perfect Blue is about a Japanese pop star that changes careers and goes into acting and starts to question her reality, and the same thing as well, like throughout the whole film we're questioning what's real, what's not, immediately from the start. I think Perfect Blue takes a lot of time in the start to establish that she's starting to lose her mind, Whereas here it's like straight into it. There's no mucking around. This movie is going to be under 2 hours. God damn it, and we're going to do it by 12 minutes. So
Yeah, can we talk about that for just a sec? Like, come on, guys. If you like, you know, saw a drawing of you like moving and talking to you or whatever, why don't you tell somebody about that?
yeah.
Why do you not tell anybody?
Communication is the key, people.
And just be like, well, I got to go to work anyway, so that never happened. And you just go to work, and then like 20 more things happen.
Yeah.
And you still are like, but I've got a performance.
Well, that's the thing about her character, right? She just wants to be the perfect ballerina, right? So, yeah.
And even worse, like she's by the 20th thing that's happening to her, she's still like, oh, what just happened? It's like, do you not remember the 19 other crazy shit that happened to you? Like maybe this is one of those things, you know? How does it still surprise you that this weird stuff is happening?
She's naive, Ben. She's only 20.
That's true. She totally is.
You don't know what's real and what's not, right? So even if it is weird, it's like, shit, did that actually happen?
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. I think, I don't know. I like a lot of art house films, so watching this is very like art housey, and a lot of things that are left for interpretation. I love that shit. I'm like, oh, what if this happens, and what if that was, and like reading into it and all the little details into it. There are a lot of things that can be interpreted just from the shots, you know. I think a lot of this film could even be like, you know, a silent film, and just watching what's happening could be really interpreted. Like you kind of already know what's going on. But yeah, I think they got the casting like spot on, getting Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman to play against each other there. I think that was really, really smart.
What do they call it now? Play against each other.
Yeah, and Vincent Cassel as the ballet director.
We've been saying it wrong, Shane.
Oh, Vincent Castle?
I thought it was Cassel.
Cassel.
Oh, we're gonna have to look this up now.
We're gonna have to look this up. If you're in chat, you let us know. But watching
be a Gal Gadot situation.
Oh my god, Bernstein. So having him as like the creepy guy, I don't know. All I can think of, and it's really like it's not right, but like all I can think of is French. It's very French. It's very
Thomas.
yeah.
What is that thing that he's wearing in the first scene when you see him, where they're all doing their
He's wearing a sweater around his thing.
Yeah, it's like a teeny tiny little jumper. It might just
it's
be
like
a sweater.
Tied up
like
at the arms, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's not tied up at the arms. It's like perfectly square here, perfectly square at the back. It's like got a hole for his head, and it just comes down to his nipples on both sides. If you had back nipples, you know.
It's French.
It's French.
Yeah, extremely French, extremely artiste.
Very artiste. I don't know how much more I can say about this. I think the film is very visually stunning. Sorry. Speaking of visuals, one thing I noticed was there's a part where Nina comes in. She sees Natalie Portman comes in and sees Mila Kunis's character kind of filling in the role of her, whilst she was like late. I don't know if it's you guys. I don't know if it was just me. But I felt like the whole movie was moving at like 24 frames per second, or you know, your standard film frames per second. But then watching that scene there, and I guess maybe because it was slowed down a little bit as well, watching her, I felt like the frame rate jumped up to like 60 frames per second because her movements were a lot more smoother.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's interesting.
So whether or not
it, but yeah, it might be
whether or not that was like Natalie Portman's point of view, seeing like she's like
perfection.
So I don't know, maybe it was a trick of the eye, maybe it was just me seeing things, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But
maybe that's how you see Mila Kunis, just at 60 frames per second.
That's right.
The whole world around you slows down. and then when you come back,
Yeah, I know what
it's
you're talking
like,
about,
oh,
Jason.
what
That whole
just
scene was at normal speed. I don't know what you're.
Wait a second, let me look at like pictures of me and see. If
I will
it's-
quickly jump in and say that Mila Kunis did a fantastic job. I love her, the contrast between her and Nina, and particularly that whole nightclub sequence was just incredible.
Trippy.
Her personality and just the juxtaposition clearly on display. I loved it. Ben.
Do you guys think that they did a face swap or had doubles or something? Because like they're doing some pretty nice dancing.
They did have doubles, yeah, and they did bring in some professional ballerinas to do some sequences in place of Portman and Kunis. Though both of them did train strenuously. I think Portman went through 6 months of ballerina training. Kunis did ballet as a child, but obviously hadn't done it in a long time, so revisited some adult training in particular. And yeah, noting in a couple of interviews I was reading, saying that it's all about training the body, right? Like getting the body for both of them in a state that would be believable on the silver screen to anyone familiar with the ballet world. And I think for the most part, I mean, from very ignorant eyes, they seem to embody it really well. And I would believe, like, that one sequence where you see Nina training in the early stages for this is before there's a lot of notes on Tom Ha's part. Just the way that this coach, this choreographer, was speaking to her and instructing her. I think she wasn't an actress. She was brought in. She might have been one of the choreographers or the consultants or working on the film. And it's just like in the same way that you have a real medic at the very end of Captain Phillips, tending to Captain Phillips.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
I think that would have been like an actual ballet teacher, choreographer, coach, whatever. Yeah.
There was this one line that made me think a little bit like, oh, what's happening? So there's the concept of the character of the retiring primo ballerina. Like she was the star for years, and now he wants someone new. So they're kind of kicking her out, but they're saying, she's gracefully decided to retire at the end of the season or whatever, and she's not happy about it, obviously. And she drunkenly comes up to Castle's character and says, like, we need to talk. This is bullshit or something like that. She's like out of line and being rude and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, let's get out of here. They go back to his place, and then he says about her, don't worry, that's typical. As if not, like, I don't know what he's trying to do, but what he seems to be doing for me, my view, is saying, that'll be you in a few years. Like, it's typical, this will most likely happen to you as well. Like, that's nothing to not worry about. You say that is unusual. You say the opposite of what he said to try and calm someone down who's now in her shoes. Like, literally just taking, like, just a minute ago, he announced that out with the old, in with the new. Like, he literally says almost that exact same thing. It's like, forget about her, we got this new girl here, this is her. And then the old girl, like, blows up, and he's like, happens all the time. Anyway, it's like, mate, you're not doing a very good job of calming this over.
I read that more of like it's typical of Beth's behavior, like the character that Winona Ryder was playing.
Maybe.
It's like, oh, that's typical Beth, getting all upset, sort of thing. Maybe I'm not sure. That was just my interpretation.
Oh, okay. No, that wasn't mine, but yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I already talked about the again scenes. I'm gonna strike that from that's my favorite scene, the one where the violinist is doing his thing. There's one more thing that made me giggle. The movie has this I don't know what the character is in the actual Swan Lake story. It's the evil witch or whatever, the one that is like pulling her away from the prince. He's dressed in black feathers. He's like a black swan too or something.
I think he's just like the evil prince or the evil twin brother or something like that.
Oh, is there an evil twin prince as well?
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's one of the two that at the end she like looks at him and says goodbye, and then looks at the prince and then decides to die or whatever it is. And
I think I know what you're gonna say.
No, I don't know that you are, but
okay.
so he's a character that like spooks us a few times throughout. Like he's like they've CGI'd his eyes, and he like kind of like whooshes across the screen once or twice. She like turns around and he's there in the mirror or something like that. And it's like in the first scene, he's like there, and she's like, well, they're doing the dance together. Then when it comes to performance night, like opening night, and he's in costume and he's walking by and he just goes, "Hey."
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Yes.
Okay, well done, James. He like completely takes the scariness out just for a split second from my personal laughter. And I really liked how they just did that one little thing.
I enjoyed
she's like standing there. She's just side of stage getting ready to go on, and he just walks past. He's just like,
"Hey."
I was like, yep, don't worry. It's just a person in a bird costume.
That's me.
Exactly.
There's nothing to be scared of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did love that moment as well. Anyway, as you can tell, we really enjoyed Black Swan. If you would like to watch it for yourself, it is available to stream on Disney Plus. We highly encourage you go do so.